sheer panic, it comes and goes, and anyone who demands something like that, like what was already reported this afternoon, in my opinion, has completely lost touch with reality here in Germany. On the one hand, the CDU has now responded and has commented on the accusations that Wüst is being lined up as a replacement. The Greens are now demanding a 5-year term so that every election falls on the same day. And the Left Party is demanding that asylum seekers are now allowed to vote here in Germany. I just keep wondering, hey, where have I ended up and how do I get out of this madhouse? Where is the door so I can just say, no, I just don't want to be part of all this nonsense anymore? If you want to support this channel, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. Let's get into the first topic. The CDU has responded and commented on the serious allegations regarding the Chancellor swap.
How seriously should we take these rumors coming from CDU headquarters? Are these still just rumors, ideas, or are they already concrete coup plans?
Now hold on tight. Here's what the CDU said. They told us it's a conspiracy and cheap election propaganda by the AfD. It was leaked from within the CDU. Only after they realized that the coalition partner, especially the SPD, reacted very negatively to it today, saying things like, anyone but Hendrik Wüst. And that reforms still need to be implemented here until the end. At the end of the month, so exactly 4 weeks plus about 3 days from now, they made it very clear once again to the coalition partner here, especially the larger coalition partner, exactly where their place is. And Gordon Ripinski will explain to us once again what is really behind these accusations, and above all, how seriously they should actually be taken.
So if I were the Chancellor now, I would take them seriously for the simple reason that they exist and because, of course, they raise questions about the Chancellor's authority. And that's always a problem, especially since he's working on various issues that will ultimately determine his success. At the end of June, the Coalition Committee will announce its decisions, what will happen with the economy, and above all, we don't know what will happen with the Eastern elections in September. After that, the playing field will be reshuffled, and if this coalition is called into question, then alternatives will come into play. That could also be Hendrik West's moment.
If the coalition is on the brink, let me quickly fill you in on what has happened over the last few days. The SPD is engaging in cheap election propaganda, which is why people are now taking to the streets. Or even some high-profile celebrities are speaking out and saying things like, all the same shade of brown burble. Bass should be reported for incitement to hatred, which I think she already has been by now. At the same time, the CDU itself is leaking that Hendrik West said that at the latest, if the Eastern elections are lost, then he will be gone under pressure from the union. In the background, because he's the most popular CDU member, I'll just say, or state premier. At the same time, the SPD has now started to tear down the firewall and so on. Yes, that they're running cheap election campaigns in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern and now already here in Lower Saxony and partly in North Rhine-Westphalia because they've basically already given up on those elections. Within the CDU itself, those who are now calling for Wüst are the same people, or almost the same people, who are also calling for the removal of the firewall here in Germany so that they can open up to the AfD. And to top it all off, there's currently also an internal coup within the SPD against Lars Klingbeil. I made the videos in the last few days, including yesterday. You can check them out. That's the current situation, and he's still seriously talking about, if there are any disturbances in the coalition. This coalition is more divided, much more divided than the traffic light coalition ever was. News has once again confirmed my theories about Villa Borsig. They really went at each other's throats. Nothing else news reported about it. It was actually a text message that almost blew up this coalition. And the reaction to all of this after it came up was that Hendrik Wüst, I keep saying Jens Wüst, so Wüst might be planning a coup against Merz using underhanded methods. There, now I've got it all. Now you've all been completely brought up to speed. And now of course the Greens are showing up again. So The Greens and West are perfectly aligned on this.
What does Nori Nuripur actually want, and why are the SPD and the union applauding? For example, he wants to extend the federal election period from 4 to 5 years. That's a proposal many voters have surely heard before because it's been regularly suggested by other politicians from all parties. Now, this is the right idea. Let's take a look at the next proposal. Federal and local elections should take place on the same day. This will lead to a situation where democracy is experienced most directly by citizens, namely in the local communities, that these local elections will be overshadowed by the federal election.
Now I'm curious to see how they're going to get the left to actually implement this exactly as planned with the 5 years, because they need the left for that. At the state level, this could possibly work in many federal states, meaning holding the local elections on the same day, although there would also be quite a few differences here. And it would only take one cog not fitting into the other, then you would have a huge mess here in Germany, which would cause a lot of problems. So I don't think having federal elections every 5 years is realistic, because the left is getting stronger and the AfD is also getting stronger. And I don't really think the left is going to let themselves get outmaneuvered right now, especially not during a period of growth. I don't know what you could offer them, especially from CDU circles, that would make them vote for it. But well, I'll let myself be surprised. At the same time, that's obviously a huge change. They could implement something right after the federal election that would be as bad as possible for the people. And yes, many foolish people in Germany would of course have forgotten about it again by the next election. And that's exactly what they're counting on. However, I can tell you this, if that gets implemented, it's like pouring accelerant on a fire, because then we would see completely different poll numbers here. If that were really being discussed now, many people who have been voting for a long time would feel betrayed. But that's just a side note.
Politics is trapped in an eternal election campaign. Election campaigns are the high point of democracy. That's the time when politics is discussed more intensely than at any other time.
And now the left party is joining in too. Yes, they want people who, for example, have lived in Germany for 5 years but don't have a German passport to be allowed to vote now. Because what would these people probably vote for if you just explained it to them well enough? That's right, the left, because they campaigned for this, and that's why I personally don't think they'll go along with it. But yes, the election campaign is the high point of democracy, because people engage with politics and more are waking up. And by the end of the election campaigns, and we've seen this every time, two parties have become stronger. Which, as we're always told, have been the fringes, either the left or the AfD. And with both, and I really have to say it like this, with both it's the case that neither has ever held governing responsibility. That means even I, although I clearly am on the conservative right, have to say, yeah, okay, in the GDR that really wasn't so cool, right?